Hey, what's going on, guys? I thought I might as well do a kind of first impressions, thoughts on Cabal 2, now that I've got to level 31, and I'm in Labyrinth Forest, which is the final map in the closed beta test. Um, a couple of things that I want to kind of get out of the way at first. It's not Cabal 1. So for you guys that are expecting this a perfect exact sequel of Cabal 1, we're going to be disappointed. And you're going to find quickly that if you try to play this game like you have Cabal 1, as in solo, trying to solo everything and just dealing damage and not worrying about teamwork and support and all that kind of stuff. Well, there is teamwork at the end game, but the majority of the mid game is soloing things by yourself because it's easy to. Um, you're gonna find there's not a lot of that here. It's very teamwork oriented. It's very very team comp oriented, very end game oriented. With dungeon teams and teamwork and but basically they wanted to make this game a lot like you know teamwork and I keep saying that word, but that's really the best way to describe it. So that's kind of the main thing with Cabal 2 is that if you're expecting a Cabal 1 clone, you're not getting it. The other thing is the thing about bladers. Now, I will admit I am kind of sad that bladers are gone. However, from a mechanical standpoint, the reason why they removed bladers, number one, they needed a support class. So either they had two obvious choices for this. It was either going to be Force Blader, the the poster boy class of Cabal, the most unique class in Cabal, and the most unique class in almost any MMO out there, really. Or get rid of their generic rogue class. So they chose to get rid of their generic rogue class. Um, and the reason why they chose to get rid of these two classes is because they really don't fit anywhere. Um, what was funny about Cabal 1 was the fact that their classes were mostly, well, pretty much every class in the game was a DPS class, right? Every class in the game was designated to deal damage. It was a very solo-oriented game to where everyone could deal damage. There wasn't really that much of a supportive class except for the Force Archer, which had a bunch of buffs and heals, and the Force Shielder, which was the tank. But the thing was is the Force Shielder also had a shit ton of damage, and the Force Archer also had a shit ton of damage. So it was kind of weird, the fact that they chose to go with the Force Blader instead of the Blader is obviously because they needed a single target melee DPS class, so they went with the Force Shielder instead. But I mean the Force Blader, sorry. But that puts the Force Blader in Cabal 2 in a very weird position. And in fact, I'm going to be honest here, the Force Blader is the weakest PvE class in the game, and I'm pretty sure this is agreed by everybody. Um, but that's for another topic. So those are the main two things I wanted to touch on before I got into the game itself. So first off, let's talk about graphics. They're good. That's all I'll say is that they're good. Um, but what I really like about it is that it's optimized. So this is the screen. This is the latest screenshot that I have. I took this literally today, in Labyrinth Forest, and this is running on low settings. And look how great it looks. Even on low settings, this game looks really damn good. Where it mostly changes is lighting effects and shadows. So if you turn shadows and lighting off, the game looks like shit. It looks terrible. But if you have textures on low, object on low, render distance on low, but just turn up lightning and shadows, the game still looks beautiful. And in fact, I've found out that actually turning shadows and lighting up doesn't affect FPS that much. It's one of the weird optimization issues with the game right now, but here's a couple of other screenshots. So this is one of Desert Fort at night, and you can see just look how great the lighting is here. What's really cool, what's really interesting about Desert Fort is that it goes into nighttime and it looks absolutely beautiful, but it doesn't last very long, mostly because it's a desert. So it's obviously like I think it's more up north or down south or something. So it doesn't well Actually, no, closer to the equator. Sorry. So it has longer daytimes. Here's the sunrise in Desert Fort, and again you can see the blue sun coming up. It's really cool looking. You can even see the fog in the background with the sunrise because, you know, the desert and everything like that. And here's another shot at Desert Fort at night. This is the town, and again, this is on low settings. The game looks really good. Now, where a lot of people are complaining are optimization issues. The fact that there's a lot of people that are getting 30 FPS out of it. You know, generally speaking, that's good for me. My computer is not exactly that good, but getting 30 FPS on average, the game still looks good. What people are complaining about is the fact that they're changing the graphic settings and they're not getting any improvement in FPS, and I've noticed this as well. You can change the graphic settings to extremely low, like I said, turning off lighting and shadows, and your FPS will be exactly the same, but your game will look like shit. I think most people with high-end PCs have been saying they've been getting around 60 to 80 FPS, and haven't been receiving higher than that. The game also likes to stutter a lot. They did fix a lot of the stuttering issues, but there's still a lot of stuttering when the game wants to load character models. So I can see that being a huge problem in Nation Wars. So, you know, I hope they fix that when the time comes. So overall, the game looks great. I think the graphics are really good. They're not, you know, amazing or anything. I think Final Fantasy XIV looks better, but the graphics are good. The skill animations, again, well, the skill effects, I should say, not the animations, are really good. Now, for the skill animations, it's hit and miss. I'll say that. There's a lot of downgrade in terms of skill animations, but with the recent skill patch that Cabal 2 introduced a couple of, I think like last year in Korea, and we have it in this version, basically introduced a bunch of Cabal 1 skills into the game and a bunch of really awesome looking skills. The Warrior in particular, I think, has the best skill animations in the game. Look up the Warrior Spotlight. The Force Blader got assassinated. It's called Sonic Dance or something, but it's essentially the same skill. Force Shielders have Shield Grenade, and it actually pulls enemies closer to you, and it's really freaking cool looking. So, I mean, it's hit and miss. Some of the skills are really, really disappointing, but a lot of them are also really good looking as well. But in general, they all look really good, and they're all animated very well. So they're not as flashy as Cabal 1. That's because Cabal 1 was a completely different game and how the mechanics worked, but they still look really good. So skill animations, graphics are all above average, I want to say. The animations are actually really good, and they actually did some updates to where you can actually animate and on the move. So sometimes you might see your character not do the full skill animation, but just swing his sword. That's because they actually did a change for where you can actually move and attack at the same time with consecutive. So don't think that's a bug or anything. But anyway, so next is the music. Unfortunately, Nova Sonic, they didn't get the license to Nova Sonic again, which is kind of a shame. And they also don't have a lot of that same music, so it's very generic fantasy, but it's still very good. I would say it's comparable to Aura Kingdom, and Aura Kingdom has really good music. There's one dungeon in particular, though, Halls of the Recluse. Basically, if you liked Forgotten Temples music, you're going to love Halls of Recluse's music. It's very, very good. And that's what I love about Cabal, and what still remains good about this game is that every area has its own theme song. And the music is great. It's really good. It's not better than Cabal 1's, though. I still think Cabal 1's music is way better, but that's just my taste because I love hardcore techno rock music and hard metal music, so that's what I think, but yeah. So I guess the setting. So immediately you'll notice that Cabal 2 is more fantasy-driven than sci-fi driven. There's no astro bikes yet. There's no astro boards again yet. There's no mech environments, and there's a change in like the way they do technology. So it's a lot more generic fantasy based, but I don't really think that's an issue because as you can see, the areas in this game are really well designed. So the 4 areas in the game that are currently in the game are Lathe Island, which is basically Newbie Town, which is basically just a giant line. It's kind of worthless. Frey Hilltown, which is kind of like your generic palace kingdom based, city based area, big city, forest areas outside, very pretty. And then you have Desert Fort, which I've already shown you here. Your standard desert area. Desert Fort is so far my favorite. It's really beautiful, and I've even showed you some of the nighttime shots and how great it looks. It's more wide open than the other areas, and has more going with it. And then lastly is Labyrinth Forest, which is basically your deep forested area. This is the most wide open area in the game right now, and I think that's kind of what they've been doing with each of the maps, is that the more you progress, the more open they become, the more free form they become. Whereas with Lathe Island and Frey Hilltown, that's mostly just a very generic, narrow path. So, yeah, it's a little bit linear in that sense, and that's kind of going into quests, where this game is very linear. It, however, stops that around level 25, 27, where you have to start grinding. So, yeah, I mean, it's linear at first, but, like I said, the game opens up a lot more at the end, and especially when you get to endgame, when Nation Wars get released, oh man, it's when it gets really fun. So, that's it in terms of, like, settings, graphics, music, the overall design of the game. Now, I guess I can go into gameplay. All I can say is that if you liked Cabal 1, you're going to like this game. It's different, but it's still good. The thing that makes this game so, like, what makes the combat so addicting is the fact of how fluid it is. I honestly think that in terms of target MMOs, because this isn't an action MMORPG like, a lot of new MMOs are trying to be, it does target combat so well, to the sense that it feels like you're playing an action-based game. Cabal 1 was almost the same way. However, the one thing that this game unfortunately doesn't do is positioning, and that was the one thing that Cabal 1 did really well, was the fact that all of the skills were affected by how your character was positioned in proportion to the enemy that you targeted. In this game, it's not the case, except for AoE skills, but, because those are free target, and, other types of channel skills. But, what I mean by fluid is the fact that skills chain into each other almost seamlessly. Like, games, they so fluidly, like, the skills just so fluidly chain into each other, combo into each other, without any difficulty, and it's really, really nice, when you get used to the combo system, because it's basically Cabal 2's where it's all about, Cabal 1's where it's all about timing, but it's a lot more free form, and it's a lot more fluid. You don't have that kind of awkward starting up animation where your character just stumbles and you have to wait for the combo start to appear. You just go right into it. And what's really cool is that the combo timing, you can actually chain skills together faster than you can combo. So the combo timing window is actually slower than chaining skills, so you can chain skills faster. So what it comes down to is kind of this mindset to where, okay, should I try to do the combo for the slightly extra damage, or should I cancel into the skill quicker to get out of a situation or to do a stun or whatever? So it kind of comes down to, whatever type of situation that you're in. And that's the other thing that this game kind of really does with its skills, is that it's very situational, especially with Force Blader, where he's so versatile. A lot of his skills are very situational based, like his stun, like his slow, like a lot of his ranged attacks, his backdash, and all that sort of thing. Really all depends on what kind of position he's in and what he needs to do. And that's one of the things the combat does well. Another thing that it kind of did was, again, add the emphasis on teamwork as party buffs. This is something Cabal 1 did quite interestingly, was the fact that every class had their own party buffs. It's the same way here. So every class can give their party buff to themselves. So, for example, for Force Blader, it increases their crit chance. For Force Archer, it increases their accuracy, so their hit rate. So the only way to get that buff from another player is to be in their party, but those buffs last for an hour. So what I've seen some players do is party up with each other, give each other party buffs, and then leave. to kind of just give out buffs. It's an interesting way of doing it. I don't know how I feel about it, but it's a pretty interesting way to do it. And the whole thing with buffs in this game is there's a lot of selectable buffs. By that I mean there's a lot of buffs that overlap each other. So for example, Force Blader has Lightning Blade, which increases lightning damage, Shadow Blade, which increases crit accuracy, crit chance, and Fusion Blade, which gives you a tiny bit of both. So it's either you get a stronger version of each, or a weaker version of both. So again, depending on your situation, but really Fusion Blade is all you really need for most situations, but that's besides the point. Force Shielder, for example, has 2 selectable buffs. One of them increases him and his party members' defense, and the other one increases their offense but lowers their defense. So, again, there's a lot of situational-based stuff in the combat, and I think that's pretty cool. Now, what's disappointing is the skill system. Cabal 1 had skill points, but it was one of the first MMORPGs that had free skill resets. Well, obviously you had to pay in-game money, but you didn't have to buy a stupid fucking cash shop item to reset your skills. In Cabal 2, it's generic skill books. You just buy the skill book to upgrade your skills. No free form, no strategy, nothing. Just buy the skills. It's really disappointing. Likewise, no stat points. All of your stats come from gear. This game is 100% gear dependent, and that's basically where that's where all of your stats come from, and that's also where the majority of this game lies. Much like C1, it's a Diablo-based, grind-heavy, farm-heavy, gear-based game. Gear is mandatory, and all of your stats come from your gear. That's pretty much what this game is right now. It's highly dependent on upgrading, on crafting, on perfecting your gear to its max, which is exactly what C1 did. Just added stats onto it, which didn't make a huge difference. But, yeah, it's pretty much all gear-based at this point. So, I guess the last thing to talk about is content. Unfortunately, this is where I'm kind of on the fence about with Cabal 2. The game just lacks content. Now, I know it's in closed beta, and I know there is level 50 content in the game, but even still, there's not a lot here. So, pretty much the end game for Cabal 2 are the challenge modes, which are basically Chaos Arenas, Nation Wars, and the end game dungeons for grinding gear and stuff. There isn't... Where Cabal 1 had, 170 when the game first came out, 200 levels, lots of maps to farm. Well, that game was grind heavy, but, lots of places to explore, lots of quests to do, Nation Wars, and lots of different variety of skills, and lots of dungeons. Cabal 2, I don't know. Content-based, it's kind of down, I guess? I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it right now. I guess it's just different. It's more focused on endgame than it is exploration and grinding, where Cabal 1 was. So I guess it's different. Right now, there's only 4 dungeons in the game. I think total there's about 6 to 8. I don't remember. You can actually look at all the dungeons in the game. And what's really cool is dungeons also have challenge mode, so they do have a harder version of them. But, yeah. Now, speaking of the dungeons, they're basically Cabal 1-esque dungeons. No explanations on what goes on in there. All the bosses have gimmicks. It's more teamwork dependent than ever before. It's a lot more team composed. So, generally speaking, if you try to do the second dungeon in the game with all FBs, you're going to die. Right? You need a tank, you need a healer, you need single DPS, you need AoE DPS. You need all of that stuff in this game. And that's kind of also where the game is stagnating right now, is the fact that the majority of the players, I'd say about 85% of the player base, are Force Bladers and Force Archers. So, yeah, that's one of the main flaws of having a poster boy class, is the fact that, well, yeah, you get the idea. So I'm just about coming up on 20 minutes here, and, there are some other flaws that I can talk about. I mostly wanted to focus on the positives. For example, the inventory system is shit. But, other than that, this game is really good. I I'd say it's one of the most enjoyable free-to-play MMOs I've ever played in a long time. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Cabal fanboy, because I am. I'm saying that because it's a very fun game. There might be a lot of people that may see it as generic. There might be a lot of people that may see it as boring, but there was a lot of people that went into this game thinking it was going to be another generic Aeon clone, and then played it, and then realized how much fun this game is. So, it's definitely not for everybody. I wouldn't say, if you're someone who's expecting an exact C1 clone, you're not going to get it. If you're expecting a new groundbreaking MMORPG, you're not going to get it. But if you want something that is a generic, well, not generic, but like ordinary point and click MMORPG that feels refreshing, well, not it feels fluid, it feels fast paced, and it just feels fun, I guess, is the best way to describe it. It's a fun game. Is it a good game, though? Well, time will tell, especially when we get to endgame, but it's fun and it's enjoyable. It looks good. It plays great. Besides a couple of the bugs that are in the game right now. It's closed beta, what are you going to do? Yeah, I'm really surprised at how much more fun this game was than I originally thought. So I say give it a shot. If you ever get a chance to play it, especially since compared to most generic MMOs coming out, right, like Echo of Soul, I'm telling you, it's way better than Echo of Soul. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you guys that like Echo of Soul, but I think Cabal 2 is better. That's just my opinion, though. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I know this is kind of a long video, but I just wanted to kind of give my first impressions of Cabal 2, and it's a thumbs up for me. As of right now, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I'd probably rate it higher if Nation Wars were out, because the Nation Wars look really fucking fun. But yeah, like I give it a 7.58 out of 10, maybe even higher. Once if I get to endgame. If the game gets released, gets a couple of bugs fixed, a couple of issues addressed, I definitely rate it higher. But yeah, I say 8 out of 10 right now. Yeah, I'm gonna say 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. That's my score. All right, CBT 8 out of 10. Good game. Try it. Cabal 2. That's it. Okay, I'm done. Oh, also, as a little of a PS, I'm playing Oathmania again. My wrists feel a little bit better. They still do hurt, but they're at the point where I can actually play a little bit and take a break in between. So I've been playing like a couple of sets of songs and then taking a break. So if you ever see me on Oathmania, I'll be on there spamming Easy 2 On songs because I'm a fucking idiot. Anyway, catch you all next rant, blog thing, whatever I'm doing on this channel. I don't know.